Hello, my name is Jimmy Vegas and welcome to the 13th in a series of video tutorials on how to create a Super Mario game in Unity 5. So this episode we're going to focus on where we left off from our last episode with our mushroom we put in this box here. So we're going to collect our mushroom and allow our player to increase in size. We'll also be looking at some settings and creating a new scene as well as a death script. So for example, if we fall down this gap here, we'll die and have to restart the level. So firstly, let's begin with our mushroom. So what I'm going to do is in our audio folder, in our effects folder, I'm going to drag and drop grow sound. That'll be the first thing we'll do here. And when it's imported, we need to add that to our main camera. So main camera, audio, right click, create empty, and let's have this as mushroom collect, and then drag and drop grow sound straight onto there. And as I always say, these assets are free on the website. They're not official assets for Super Mario. They're just quick things I've put together. So you head over there, head to downloads and assets, head to the pink series, which is the Super Mario, and you can download. Or alternatively, you can go in search of your own sounds or own assets and get them from, say, Google or something. So make sure you tick play on awake, and untick play on awake, so that should be blanked out. So the next thing we're going to need to do is let's reduce the size of our player. So if we go on our third person controller, and I'm going to reduce him to 0.8 by 0.8 by 0.8. So he's a little bit smaller. So the way this is going to work is we're going to create a script. So when we trigger with the mushroom itself, we'll increase in size. So before we go any further, make sure your tag for your player, your controller in this case, does say player. So up here in your inspector pane, if that does not say player, make sure you tick that list and then tick player. Next thing, let's head to our scripts, right click, create, and let's create a script. And I'm going to call this mushroom collect. Keep it nice and simple. And as always, this opens up in MonoDevelop for me. You may have Visual Studio, makes no difference whatsoever. Still the same script. So this script itself is going to have two variables. It's going to have a game object, which is going to be the player itself, because that's what we need to increase. And it's going to have the audio that we've just imported into our project. So what will happen is we'll create a quick function, which when we trigger with the mushroom, will grow and the sound will play. Not too difficult. So let's delete what we've got and let's start with our first variable. So var, and I'm just going to call it grow sound, and that's going to be a type audio source semicolon. Next variable, I'm going to call just the player. Nice and simple again. And that's game object. So the function we're going to use is going to be on trigger enter, which we have used before. So same as last time, function on trigger enter. And remember, capital O, capital T, capital E, open brackets, call, and we'll have collider, close bracket, open curly bracket. So now we need to create an if statement because we need to make sure that whatever object is colliding with our mushroom is the player, because we don't want it to collide with just anything. We only want it to collide with the player. So in that case, what we have to do is if call dot game object dot tag, I think it is. It should be tag, yeah. And then double equals there, and then in quotes, player, and then open curly bracket. So we've got our if statement set there saying if the tag of the object is called player, then firstly we need to move this mushroom way off the screen. So this dot transform dot position equals, and that's going to be, let's do vector 3 open brackets 0 comma minus 1000 and 0. So that will move it way off screen, so we'll never actually see it because our camera is on a fixed axis, so it's just impossible for us to ever see it. You can destroy it if you want to, but if you do destroy it, make sure you execute all the code before you destroy it. Otherwise, it will remove the object from your scene and remove the script along with it, and nothing will happen after you destroy it. So I've just moved it for now. So what we need to do is then grow sound dot play open close bracket semicolon, and then finally we need to increase the size of our player. So we need to do the player dot transform dot local scale, and remember when you type local scale there, make sure that is a lowercase s and an uppercase a lowercase l and an uppercase s, and that's going to be plus equals new vector 3 and then open bracket, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to increase it by 0.3 comma 0.3 comma 0.3 close bracket semicolon, and then let's close the if statement and then close the function and save. So that particular line, the player.transform.local scale plus equals new vector 3, what we're doing there is essentially taking whatever the scale of the player currently is, and we're adding to it these specific numbers here. So we've currently got our player set as 0.8 by 0.8 by 0.8. So when we hit this mushroom, we'll add 0.3 to each one of their numbers, thus making our player 1.1 in size. So what we need to do is we now need to put that script, the mushroom collect script, which is that one there, and we need to put it on the mushroom which moves around, not the mushroom which comes out of the question mark box. So we need to go down to question block 01 where we put it, and it's going to be this one, red mushroom 001. So drag and drop onto there. And then down below, you'll see here, we have our variables to input. So we need to mushroom collect onto grow sound, and then third person controller onto the player. Just turn my volume up a little bit, so just make sure we hear this. So let's press play, and then let's collect our mushroom. Okay, yeah, my bad. One thing we forgot to do there, make sure we tick, is trigger. Usually helps. So let's try that again. Just to clarify, is trigger should be ticked on your red mushroom. So once again, let's try that. Mushroom comes down, and let's collect our mushroom. There we go. So the sound played and our player increased in size. So for reference, you can set these figures as any number you want. If you want to put 0.4 by 0.4 by 0.4, then that's entirely up to you. So that's how we increase the size of our player. So next thing we're going to need to do is let's work on our death screen. So when we die, we need to restart the level. And what I like to do with this is I like to have something called a preload. And what this is it kind of takes the game to a separate scene for maybe a split second, a single second, 2 seconds, just to kind of make sure we refresh everything. So to do that, what we're going to do is if we go to File and go to New Scene, and let's make sure we save our main scene first of all. And I'm going to save this scene as, and I'm going to call it level 01 preload. There we go. Next thing I'm going to do is File, build settings and click here on add open scenes, and you'll see here that scenes in build now includes this preload scene. So what we'll eventually do is we'll add our main scene that we've been working on so far in as well. So when it has a value of 0 up here, it means that this is going to be the very first scene which is loaded when the game actually runs as its standalone executable file for whichever platform you're developing for. So I am going to leave them there with directional light and the main camera. I'm going to game object, UI, and I'm going to have a raw image. I'm not going to rename that raw image, just keep it like that because there's not going to be much in this scene. I'm going to anchor it as a stretch on both right down there. Let's keep it as 0, 0, 0, 0. So that now fills the entire screen. And I'm going to change the color to black. So when we press play now, we should just see a black scene, which does absolutely nothing, which is exactly what I want at this point. Now, in the scripts folder, I'm going to create another folder, just to kind of keep things a bit uniform. I'm going to call this preloads, or pre-loads, I've called it in this case. Let's quickly rename that. A bit hasty with the type in there. So in this folder, I'm going to create another script. I'm going to call this level 01 underscore load. And let's open that up in MonoDevelop or Visual Studio. And what we're going to do here is a nice, quick, simple script. Oops. Great. Do not send. I just love it when this happens in a tutorial. Okay, so let's open that up again and curse the computer for giving us errors. Fantastic. So this script is going to be a simple line in a start function. So I'm just going to get rid of everything except the function start. And in here, I'm just going to put, nice and simple, application dot load level open bracket, and I'm going to put the number 1 here, close bracket, semicolon, and save. Now that number 1 references the number that we spoke about earlier in our settings menu here. So when we add our main scene, as I say, that will turn to number 1. So that will be scene 1. And what that script has done, as you can see just over here, is load level 1. So what would happen is we would instantly go to our main scene when we start up this level. So we need to game object, create empty, we'll leave it as game object for now, and just drag and drop that script onto there. And let's save that scene, head back to level 01, and then go to File, Build Settings, and Add Open Scenes. And there you see, we now have level 01 as scene number 1. So let's close and let's save. So just to make sure this works correctly, let's go to our preload scene, press play, and we should instantly go to our main level. And there we go. Now, one thing to notice, if you do that, the lighting will not work properly. This is a bug in Unity. It's existed for as long as I've used Unity, and it's never really fixed. It doesn't mean that when you build the game itself, that it won't work. When you do build the game, the lighting still works just fine. It's just one of them silly bugs in Unity, but doesn't have any impact on the build of the game itself. So let's go a little step further with this. Let's have a yield, wait for seconds, and in there let's have 1. So let's wait for a second before we jump to our scene. So now, hopefully, we start up our game. We should be presented with a black screen for a second, and then jump to our main level. There we go. So each time we go to this scene itself, the preload, our level 01 will reset. So if we head back to level 1 now, and what we're going to do is let's build that death script. So I'm going to go to main camera and audio, and I'm going to import into the FX folder this other audio I have, which is death. So let's put that straight in there, and let's go to audio, create empty, and I'm going to call this death sound, and drag and drop onto there, and untick play on awake. And next thing we're going to need to do is we need to put a trigger in the hole where we can fall and die. So just here. And we can do that real simple by going game object, 3D object, cube. And that will be our trigger. So I'm going to increase the size on the x-axis to, let's say, let's have it as 5 for now. And on the Z or Z by 3. Just so it gives us a bit of a trigger there. And I'm going to drag it down to about there. So whatever happens when we fall down this hole, this trigger will catch us. So the idea is we need to set this as a trigger to make sure it works. We don't need to worry about tags with this one. We need to go to scripts and let's right click, create and folder. And I'm going to call this folder death scripts. And in there, right click, create script. Let's have level 01 death. And let's open that up. So obviously you'll have a separate script for level 2, separate one for level 3, because you'll be using different preload scenes. So I'm going to clear everything it's given us. And we're going to use just one single variable in this, which is the audio source we've just imported. So var death sound, and that's audio source, semicolon. And the function we're going to use is on trigger enter again. So function on trigger enter, open bracket, call, and then collider, close bracket, open curly bracket. And what we're going to need to do is, firstly, we need to play our death sound. We don't need to worry about moving this object anywhere off camera because it's never going to really be on camera anyway, and it's not something we need to move. So death sound dot play. Oops, not comma, dot play. So firstly, we have our sound playing. Next, let's wait for let's say 3 seconds and semicolon. And after that, what we need to do is application dot load level, open bracket, 0, close bracket, semicolon, and then close our function and save. So what we've done here is as soon as our player collides with this particular trigger, we play our death sound, we wait for 3 seconds, and then we load up the preload level for area or level 1. So let's head back into Unity. And on this trigger, let's right click, rename, and let's call this, what can we call it? Death trigger. I'll call it 01, I think, for now. And drag and drop your script straight onto there. So we need to put our death sound onto there. And last thing you need to do is turn off mesh renderer there so it becomes invisible. And save. So let's go through the whole scenario. Let's start with our preload level and press play. So we're on preload, and now we start our level. So let's head straight to the death scene. And okay, so we've died, and now we're back to the start. So what we may need to do now is let's add a I'll go off there. Let's add a second variable to this, which will stop the music of the level. So var, and let's have level music. That will be a game object and we'll just disable it. Nice and simple. So we'll have level music dot set active and then false. So now we just need to quickly set that in our level 01. So down to our, oops, let's have a quick think. Down to our death trigger and main camera, audio, and we need to put in the overworld into level music. Save, and let's quickly run through that again. So we've started our game. We're in our preload. We started, so let's play the level. And down we go. So there we go. And now we're back. So just to prove that everything resets, let's hit our mushroom. Let's collect our mushroom. And then let's die again. And we should see everything has reset. Our mana is back to normal and we can collect the mushroom again. So next episode, what we're going to look at is we're going to look at stopping the camera from any particular movement after we've died, so it freezes at that point. We'll work with some lives, a bit more GUI, and we'll look at setting up a main menu. So until then, you keep building, you do what you need to, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Thank you very much for watching.